inside. It is humble, but perfectly useful on the outside, and it is beyond grandeur on the inside. So that's the that's the there goes Jesus. That's his outside humanity was a humble servant, but on the inside he is eternal God. And and we've talked about what all the things on the wall that were embossed into the wood paneling and with the gold leaf and whatnot. So we come to chapter 4, and we're going to have these things, these outside things described. Chapter 4, 2nd Chronicles. And the first thing he's going to describe in verse 1, the bronze altar where the sacrifices are burnt, where the fire never goes out in that altar. That is, if you're going to pick out what's the most important thing on the outside, well, that's it. Yeah, but what about where the priests wash? They have to be washed to do their work. Yeah, you really can't separate anything. But the bronze altar is the big deal, and it gets one verse. Then he made a bronze altar, 20 cubits in length and 20 cubits in width and 10 cubits in height. 30 feet square, 15 feet high and lifted up, by the way. And it's, I think that no, I'm ahead of myself. So it's, that is 20 cubits, 30 feet, and 20 cubits high. That's 10 cubits in height. So that's 15 feet. Remember, let's see, a cubit is the length of Pharaoh's arm from there to there. So it's 18 inches. And if it's a royal cubit, it's 21 inches or something like that. Maybe they had a big Pharaoh one year. I don't know. But and then you've got the span of 9 inches from here to here, and then you've got this is generally about 3 inches, a hand breadth, it'll be called. And you've got, 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers, 5 fingers. And this is 6 fingers from here over here. And they've got these little 18-inch sticks, and everything's marked out. The bronze altar, or the altar of whole burnt offering, is what that's called. And it's just an exploded version of the one that sits right now about 5 miles north where the tabernacle is. So that's the one that Moses made. It's still there. But Solomon's going to take it down, and he's going to store it in the storerooms on the side of the temple. So, in verse 2, he also made the cast metal sea, 10 cubits from brim to brim, circular in form, and its height was 5 cubits. Okay, so this 15 feet, this around from one side to the other. And he also tells us in verse 2 at the end there that its circumference was 30 cubits. That's 45 feet around. So you take your distance across, multiply it times pi, and then that's how you get your circumference. Let's see, how deep is that? And it's 5 cubits high. 5 cubits high, that's 7.5 feet. So you've got this, don't know how it's shaped, some kind of bowl shape, I guess, and 15 feet across, 7.5 feet deep. Now, verse 3. Now figures like oxen were under and all around it. How many have a version that say gourds? Okay, that's what it says in 1 Kings. Gourds. But what it literally says is bull, oxen-like faces. And what that has to do with a gourd, I don't know. I read some things, but no matter what. So you've got this big bowl that probably goes something like that. And okay, but that doesn't show the oxen we're talking about right now. These go right under here, and there's 2 rows of them. It's circled just below the lip. So it says, let's see, at the end of verse 3, the oxen were in 2 rows, cast in one piece. So they were cast into the bronze when they cast that whole bowl. Now, these faces, whatever they were, oxen heads, gourds, doesn't matter to me. And they were all cast in that one piece at the end of verse 3. Now we get to the the oxen on the bottom. In verse 4, it stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing the north, 3 facing the west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east, and the sea was set up on top of them, and all their hindquarters turned inward. That makes sense. You want to see them, not their rear ends. Carol. Well, if it come up a real windy sleet storm, they'd turn the other way. But okay. But that's what they obviously 12. Somehow they represent the 12 tribes of Israel, and on top of them is this big swimming pool full of water. And so there's a connection between cleansing Israel and the priest who would walk up a set of steps up to the top. That's where they washed. That's where the priest washed. So when Moses made the tabernacle, there was just one bowl of water, and it served for everything. And so when they're making sacrifices again, the burnt offering, well, they killed the calf and they cut it open and take its insides out, but they have to wash out the stomach and the intestines. Okay, this has got to be clean. Even the innards has got to be clean before they go up there and are offered to God. I just look at this. So we've got one great big bowl and then 10 little ones. Now, when on opening day, when Solomon, the first day, there's going to be thousands and thousands of sacrifices made. So maybe that's why he figured, I better make 10 of these things because things are going to be jumping around here. And I imagine they were. What did they do? I can't help but overthink anything. What do they do with all this stuff? And the blood. They must have had like a bucket brigade of Levites carrying water from the Gihon spring up there and constantly washing stuff down. They must have had some kind of drainage that went somewhere. So okay, we've got this big sea, it's called, sitting on top of 12 oxen. And there's 3 in each cardinal direction, pointing outward. So, verse 5, it was a handbreadth thick, 3 inches. If you're measuring a horse, a hand is 4 inches. It's a fist, but this is a hand about 3 inches. That means that bowl that's 15 feet across, 7.5 feet deep, is made of bronze, 3 inches thick. Yeah. Okay. It was handbreadth thick, verse 5, and its brim was made like the brim of a cup. It curled over like a lily blossom. Okay. It looked like a flower in bloom. It could hold 300 baths, 3,000 baths. Now, if you've got footnotes down there that tell you how much a bath of water is, that's 6 gallons. So 6 times 3,000, if I pass my 4th grade math right, that's 18,000 gallons of water. Now, see, I'm trying to picture this in the form of like a semi-tanker truck. Tanker, 10,000 gallons. 40 feet long. What are they, 6? I don't know. Those tanks are 6 foot. Actually, I used to drive one of those. But anyway, I'm trying to figure 10,000 gallons at 18,000 gallons fitting in this bath that is 7.5 feet deep and 15 feet across. And I can't make it out of it. But maybe somebody else can. Verse, and we could have one of those pesky copyist errors there, and that maybe that's instead of 3,000 baths, somebody added a zero. Maybe that's 300. I see that'd be 1,800 gallons. Okay, that makes me feel better. But that's recorded in Kings also. So, verse 6, he also made 10 basins, which to wash, and he set 5 on the right side and 5 on the left to rinse things for the burnt offering. That would be the guts. But the sea was for the priest to wash in. So I think I already said that a couple of times. So there we've got the kind of the outside. If you ever see a picture of this, usually you'll see these lined up like this. And I don't know. Maybe that's right. But anyway. And they are not small. They hold 240 gallons a pop. We'll get to the size here, and maybe it's back in Kings. You got to go back and forth between Kings and Chronicles to get details, but they weren't small. Anyway, so all the priest would offer burnt offerings on that altar twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening, about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's evening. And it was the high priest that did this, and he would collect some of the blood in a cup while this animal's laying on the ground, and take his hyssop, go over to the bronze altar and put the hyssop in the blood, anoint the altar with blood 7 times. Then the other guys are doing the other stuff. Then they chunk that calf up there, and it, huh? Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So, for one thing, outside the place is gory. It looks like a battlefield, and it smells bad. But when you chunk that animal up there on the bronze altar and it starts cooking and charring and smoking, that's what God says. That is a pleasing aroma to me. So, but remember what he looks at. He's not even looking at the sacrifice per se. He's looking at the hearts. That's what he's looking at. Okay. So, let me run through this. Animal killed, blood shed, blood put in a bowl, priest anoints the altar 7 times with hyssop. Insides washed out in the portable basins. And the water, by the way, they get the water through these basins. You can imagine how many times they got to dump them out and rinse them and refill them. The water comes from here, the sea. So then how do you keep it filled? And what happens when it gets dirty? I don't see anything about a drain plug on the bottom. Anyway, like I said, I can wear stuff out, but that's what it looked like. Thanks, Ray, for putting that picture up there, by the way. Okay, now we're going to go inside furnishings. Then he made 10 golden lampstands in the way prescribed for them, and he set them in the temple, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left. Okay, we're inside now. Temple, 5 of those. There again, the tabernacle has 1, and it's got 7 bowls on it that hold olive oil. Got some kind of a wick that they light, and that stays lit all the time. Then that's okay. Verse 8. He also made 10 tables and placed them in the temple, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left. And I suppose maybe these go in front of the menorahs, the lamps, whatever. And then there again, in the tabernacle, there's just one, and it's called the showbread table, or the bread of the presence is sometimes called. 12 loaves of bread that represent Israel, of course, the 12 tribes that the priest made every Sabbath. And there again, you got priests working on the Sabbath. It was made out of unleavened bread, so flour and water, no salt, no baking soda, no yeast. It's just round loaves, probably, tortilla-like, but thick. And they were in 2 stacks, 6 and 6, and they set all week. Now, they weren't tasty and good and yummy to begin with, but you take unleavened bread and let it sit for 7 days, what's it going to be like at the end of 7 days? So that bread is not going to be tasty, but that's the point. It's the priest that take the bad taste of Israel and consume it. So then let's see, he also made, the tables. And at the end of verse 8, and he made 100 golden bowls. I don't know exactly what these golden bowls are for. Verse 9. Then he made the court of the priest and the great court and doors for the court, and overlaid their doors with bronze, and he set the sea on the right side of the house toward the southeast. Here's the sea on the southeast side. The bronze altar is on the northeast side. And let's see, there's no mention in Chronicles or in Kings, I don't think, about the veil that goes in front. The tabernacle has a veil, and so did the temple, but where it is. That's what separates the Holy of Holies from the rest of it. It's called the Holy Place. The Holy Place, a veil, the Holy of Holies with the Ark of the Covenant, cherubim that are guarding God's throne, which is the that box called the Ark of the Covenant, with the mercy with the mercy seat on top. That's where mercy is found. That's where the priest, one day a year, takes a bowl of blood, his hyssop branch, and that one day a year, he gets behind here, and 7 times, he anoints that with blood. Here again, I don't see anything about a cleanup crew or but anyway, that's what he does on that one day. That would happen in the month that this is the grand opening is, and the sins of Israel on the Day of Atonement are not forgiven. I've made that mistake for a long time. They are atoned for. And there's a huge difference. Forgiveness only comes by repentance, by grace through faith in God. That's where sin is forgiven. On the Day of Atonement, there's bloodshed from a goat, and that's where he goes. He takes that goat blood back there and he anoints that altar, and the atonement is made. The covering is made. But without the heart that understands what that represents, then nothing happens. So, okay, and that atonement is made every year on the same day, every year, but it keeps on happening. Just like everything else keeps on happening. It's just ritual day after day. What's it looking for? They're looking for the fulfillment. They're looking for the kingdom that's represented inside that building right there. That's what they're looking for. When is this going to be finished? So, okay, there's another picture up there. All right. Okay. Let's go on here. And okay, verse 10, we did that. Verse 11, okay, Huram. Okay, there's 2 Hurams here. One is the king of Tyre, and one is a guy that Solomon enlisted to oversee everything. He's the guy, that's this guy of verse 11. He's a Jewish guy. Well, he's half Jewish. Remember, his mother, his family live in Dan. So, you've got Israel, Jordan River, Sea of Galilee, go down here to the Dead Sea. There's Jerusalem. And so Judah, Simeon, and Benjamin, 3 sons, are represented as Judah, the southern kingdom. And then you've got 8 more up here. One of them is the place where Jesus spent most of his time. Up here, Galilee, we know it, but that's the tribe of not Issachar, Naphtali. That's where Huram's mother is from, but his dad is from up here. There's Tyre and Sidon, 2 world hubs, shipping hubs, and that's where his dad is from. And they live up here, where the tribe of Dan settled. So He's the guy that knows everything about everything. He's the go-to guy, and he can go up. He can go up there into Lebanon where they're cutting timbers and sawing timbers and whatnot. He speaks the language. Good choice there. Okay. Verse 11, Huram also made the pails, the shovels, and the bowls. I don't know if those are the same 100 golden bowls that were mentioned at the end of verse 8 or some other kind of bowls. But Huram, he made them. He oversaw it. And these things, we got pails, buckets, and shovels. This is for ashes. Bronze altar. That thing burns all the time. There's a steady stream of Levites coming from places unknown who are out cutting down wood to keep that altar burning. So he made those things that are evidently kept inside somewhere, maybe in one of the rooms off to the side. By the way, if you're looking at the front of the temple, straight on, you're looking like this, 45 feet high, 30 feet wide. You've got these compartments that go up 22 and a half feet like this, and I think they come out, well, it says in Kings, 10 feet, 12 feet, and about 15 feet at the top. First floor, first 7.5 feet high. You've got second floor, 7.5 more feet up, and then you've got the third floor. Like this. They go all the way around the back, and all the way around the other side of the temple, like this. So the first story is a cubit or two, probably a cubit, not as wide as the second story. The second story is not as wide as the third story, but it's not built like that, built straight. So they finally figured out from King, there's one clue that tells them how they did that. And this the foundation here, the foundation stone on the bottom would have been this wide. The one for the second story would have been that wide, and the one on the top story would have been that wide. Now the reason they did that was because they laid beams on it for the floors. So you've got the temple wall right here, and then you've got this, and then you've got a straight wall here. But you see what I mean? And then, how did they connect the beams? Remember, there's no saws buzzing, there's no hammers, there's no nothing here. Out there in the quarry, when they're laying the big stone blocks temple itself, if I go, again from the side, you got the bottom. Let's just say it's like that. You got the bottom layer blocks like this. That 7.5 feet up, they either chisel out a perfect groove, maybe 6 inches inside that block at 7.5 feet, 15 feet, and then inside. And then they carried those beams on and they laid them on here, stuck them inside the wall like that on the floors. Anyway, it was kind of interesting to read that. Now, okay. So Huram, verse 11, finished doing the work which he performed for King Solomon in the house of God. The 2 pillars, okay, this is the guys at the end of chapter 3, at the end of verse 17, Jachin and Boaz, which means he shall establish on one side. On the other side, you got Boaz, in it is strength, or in him is strength. He shall establish, in him is strength. These 2 pillars that are at the outside edge of that front porch that goes to the length or the width of the tabernacle. And yeah, they're freestanding. And they're something like 22.5 feet tall, the bronze part. But then they've got this thing called a capital that goes on top of them. But so, okay. Which he performed for the house of God. Verse 12. The 2 pillars, the bowls, and the 2 capitals on top of the pillars, and the networks to cover the 2 bowls of the capitals were on top of the pillars. Okay, that, long story short, these capitals were 7.5 feet high, and they were shaped like a flower on top, a lily, a blooming lily thing, and over them they had a lattice work, which would look like a, sometimes they make apple pie with the strips, had that on there, bronze, and maybe it was rounded, and I don't know what it was for. Maybe it was to keep the birds out from putting nests in there. And then on that, okay, what else have we got? Verse 13, and 400 pomegranates for the 2 networks. That's the pie crust on top. You got 400, 200 apiece. These little golden pomegranates. I guess they were gold. They're on this, and there's also chains, brass chains wrapped around this thing. And I probably got that in Kings. But anyway, so there's you got the pillars that were cast. We're going to find out in verse 17. They were cast on the plain of Jordan. Where did my Israel go? Oh, here it is. Jerusalem, Dead Sea, Jerusalem. Here's the Jordan River, and the plain of it gives names of 2 cities somewhere. Is on both sides of the Jordan, somewhere around here. I don't. Huh? Yeah. one of those towns is on this side, and one is on the other side. Somewhere in between is where they had this special clay that could take the heat of molten bronze, and that's where they made their cast. And then when you're through with that 22.5-foot pillar, then you've got to get it to Jerusalem, and it's uphill all the way. So it's, I mean, you're going from below sea level to about 2,500 feet above sea level. So it's not like you're going straight up. But anyway, so at verse on top of the pillars, and verse 13, 400 pomegranates for the two networks. 2 rows of the pomegranates were for each network to cover the 2 bowls of the capitals which were on the pillars. We still got a picture there. That picture can do better than I can. But anyway, so then in verse 14, he also made the stands, and he made the basin on the stands. And the 1C, okay, the stands are for the portable carts. Then, verse 15, and the 1C, this is the big one, where the priests wash with the 12 oxen under it. Verse 16, the pails, the shovels, the forks, all the utensils, Huram Abi, that's his long name, made of polished bronze for King Solomon, for the house of the Lord. On the plain of the Jordan, the king cast them in the clay ground between Succoth and Zeradah. Thus, Solomon made all these utensils in great quantities, for the weight of the bronze could not be found out. Okay, I guess. So, you know, we've got this 7.5 feet deep. I'm talking about the sea now. This is for the priests to wash with water. In the New Testament, we're washed with the water of the Word and by the Holy Spirit. So there's the connection. Okay, that thing says 3,000 baths, 18,000 gallons, and it's sitting on top of 12 oxen. But it does say there was a framework underneath it. Now you think about how much 18,000 gallons of water weighs. Sitting on top of 12 spindly-legged oxen. That's a lot. What's water weigh? 7-8 pounds a gallon? Times 18,000. See, this is where I say I just want to be a fly on the wall there watching this. But anyway, verse 19, Solomon also made all these things that were in the house of God, even the golden altar. This was the incense altar that went in front of the veil right there. That's where the prayers of the priest, for the people, for themselves, for their families, that's where it went. even the golden altar, verse 19, the tables with the bread of presence on them, that's the 12 loaves. And I don't think all 10 tables had 12 loaves on it. I think there must have been a designated table. I don't know what they did with the other ones, but anyway, Solomon's an extravagant guy, but he's got a big, extravagant God. Extravagant just meaning big and holy, holy, holy. So, the bread of presence, verse 20, the lampstands with their lamps of pure gold to burn in front of the inner sanctuary in the way prescribed. That means by the law of Moses. You go back to Exodus, and he'll tell you how to make these menorahs. That's what he's saying. I went back to the law of Moses and got my instructions. The way prescribed, the flowers of the lamps and the tongs of gold, of purest gold, and the snuffers, that's to put out the lights on the menorah, the 7 lights. You got to put them out one at a time and trim the wick, relight it, do the next one, do the next. So, the spoons and the fire pans of pure gold, and the at the entrance. Now, I suppose that those pure gold fire pans and spoons, they must have been to clean out the incense altar. But it had oil poured on coals. Well, I suppose that's what they did. And the entrance of the house, which with its inner doors for the Holy of Holies, and the doors of the house, that is, of the nave, of gold. All right, so all that stuff has an explanation. All of it is, these doors weren't pure gold. Some were olive wood that were covered with gold, like the inside of the temple. And there again, you're talking about the two natures of the coming Messiah, gold and wood, humanity and deity, is just permeates this temple. Now, the last thing I want to do, we just got a couple of minutes, is just to talk about the direction that the temple faces. It faces east. There would be a door. By the way, that's a bifold door in front. Yeah. You can read the engineer report if you want to, somewhere. How they swung that, but there were 2 doors. They were both bifold. Why, I don't know, but anyway. Okay, so here's the thing about facing east. East is the direction of curse. When Adam and Eve were expelled from the garden, they were expelled to the east. In 586 BC, when this temple we're talking about, 400 some odd years from Solomon's day, Nebuchadnezzar burns it and just trashes the place and takes the Jews to Babylon, which is 600 miles this way, over by the Euphrates and Tigris River, to the east, the direction of the curse. So what do you do with the curse? Well, you have to change. You have to repent and change direction. That means you head west. Turn to Isaiah 60 and verse 1. Isaiah 60 and verse 1. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. Now go to the end of the Old Testament to Malachi, chapter 4. If you get to Matthew, just go back one book, Malachi 4 and verse 2. But for you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness, Son, S-U-N, Son, the Son of Righteousness will arise with healing in its wings and will go forth and skip about like calves from a stall. That is a messianic prophecy right there. The S-U-N of righteousness is the S-O-N of God. That's who this is. Remember what Isaiah said. Arise and shine, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. What are we doing there? We're following a natural day from east, starts in the east, in the direction of the curse, east, the direction of the curse, where the sun comes up, and what happened? You got a new day. So what do? Well, you do what the Beatles said, follow the sun. You follow the sun. The temple is facing east. The eastern gate of the Garden of Eden is on the east end. Where are you going? You're going west to blessing and rest. That's where you're going. That's why the temple is facing east. That's why the tabernacle, whenever they settled down for the night, it always faced east, so the sun would come up and show them there's a new day that way. When Joshua took the people into the promised land, they came from the east, and they came from the east, and they went and crossed the Jordan to the west. West is where the blessing is. So anyway, that's the significance, as far as I can see it, of why that temple points east. There's also, in the wall of Jerusalem, there's an eastern gate. Back in the 1500s, when the Muslims controlled Jerusalem, they had that thing shut. They rocked it up and cemented it and whatnot because of the prophecy of Zechariah that said that the Messiah, when he comes, he is going to come to the eastern gate and enter Jerusalem. So they blocked it up because they don't go there. They don't believe that. But sometime later, a couple of 100 years later, they did open that back up. The Jews did. And there is an eastern gate there now. So Jesus won't have any trouble getting through it when at the second coming. But anyway, east, that's the direction of the curse. You don't want to be at Babylon's over there. East of Eden is over there. The other side of the Jordan That's where the wilderness journey was. That's over there. Who was the guy that the editor knew the newspaper editor from New York back in the 1850s? Horace Greeley. What did he say to the young men in the East? Go west, go west, young men. He didn't know what a prophet he was. That's the direction of blessing and rest. Symbolically, of course, but that's where the Son, S-U-N, of righteousness is. You follow him. You follow him west. Okay, we're out of time. Anybody? Okay. All right, you're dismissed.